Mr. Pat, me, I know you've been interviewed on this thing before, okay? And I've got the transcripts of those interviews and things that were said. Now I've got to redo those interviews so I can get them to close this case.
This is 72-year-old Merle Mackey, who is currently being interrogated by detectives at the Hernando County Sheriff's Office for the disappearance of his wife, Evelyn Laverne Mackey, in 1981. To understand how we got here and why he's being interrogated for a missing case that happened over 3 decades ago, we need to know how this whole thing began. The story takes place in Hernando County, Florida. Evelyn Laverne, who was divorced from her Navy SEAL husband, Larry Wallace, had to raise her 2 children on her own. 11-year-old Kelly Carpenter and 19-year-old Charles Truelock. Sometime in the late 70s, she met Merle Mackey at a prison outreach ministry for non-violent offenders. This event took place at her local church, and after seeing each other regularly, the two quickly formed a strong relationship. Merle was in and out of prison at the time, but quickly settled and moved in with Evelyn once they got married. They were a happy couple, and everything seemed to be going smoothly. Evelyn's teenage daughter last saw her on the morning of November 5th, 1981. She made breakfast for her daughter, and Evelyn's new husband, Merle Mackey, took her to school. That afternoon, Merle went to pick up Evelyn's daughter alone. He told her and her brother that Evelyn had gone to Ohio to take care of her sick sister-in-law. But she did not arrive there, and her sister-in-law wasn't expecting a visit from her. Just a few days after Evelyn was last seen, Kelly was starting to get more and more worried for her mother, continually asking her stepfather about her whereabouts and when she would be coming home. Merle also told the police different stories, saying Evelyn had gone to Tampa, Florida, that she had returned home and left with a boyfriend. This didn't align with his previous statements and seemed completely out of character for Evelyn. Merle's lies did not stop there. He consistently changed his story, stating that she'd gone away to be a missionary, or that she left the country to live somewhere else. The only thing that the detectives were certain of was that Merle Mackey was a compulsive liar. He was a person who liked to tell falsehoods out of habit, and he continued to tweak and change his narrative each time he was interviewed. All that detectives knew at the time was that Evelyn vanished from the face of the earth on November 5th. There was no record of her being anywhere. Her family reported her missing in January 1982. Detectives learned that on the day she went missing, money had been withdrawn from her banking account multiple times. Months later, the account was completely empty. At that point, the case went cold, and it was not until Sergeant Phil Lankin attended the National Homicide Conference 33 years later that an inquiry into Laverne's disappearance was reignited. Investigators tracked down Merle in Chandler, Texas, and executed a ruse. They told him a plane crashed in South America and that they might have found Laverne's remains, possibly entitling him to money from the airline. In order for Merle to collect the payment, however, they said he needed to go over his statement regarding her disappearance. Merle agreed, and once back at the station, investigators would ask him to authenticate his previous interview transcripts.
Do you remember the day she left? No. I'm trying to think what was... Come on. Work with me here, buddy.
Here, the detective is clearly frustrated, but he quickly makes it seem as if he was joking as he laughs it off. If he gets too serious too soon, Merle would feel threatened and backed into a corner, limiting any chance of getting a confession. Establishing a friendly atmosphere where it's easy for both of them to converse is highly important in this interrogation.
Do you remember her ever saying something about her brother's wife being sick?
I don't recall that at all.
And we'll go from there.
I can't even remember what I ate for supper yesterday.
The day she came up missing, were you at work or what?
I don't have any clue.
When she left, do you remember going to the bank and getting money out of the bank? The bank remembers you going to the bank and getting money out of the bank.
I don't know how much I got.
I could tell you, but I'm not going to. I want to validate these interviews, and you're making it hard on me. And I thought we'd be in and out of here in about 45 minutes.
Well,
this is going a little further.
I can leave.
At this point, the situation is very fragile. The detective has no legal right to detain Merle, and if he pushes him too far, he will leave. The detective is trying to find the right balance of still fishing for the right information whilst being careful not to trigger Merle into leaving the room.
This is an interview that you had here. He said, well, she already had the suitcase packed and all that stuff. She's going to take it with her. Do you remember why she told you she needed to go again?
Her brother's wife was sick. I don't remember what she was sick from.
Had she ever gone up to take care of her brother or his wives or anything before?
I don't think so.
Was that the first time?
Yeah. She said she was going to be gone for a couple of weeks, and if she'd gone a little bit longer, I just figured something needed a little more time.
Three times. That memory's a lot better than you remembered it.
Something that I discovered.
What's that?
She had been going with some guy that she worked with at the driver's license office.
You said, I saw her. So I asked you, okay. He said, I saw her about a week after that phone call, second phone call. She had a green Cutlass.
I wanted to go through your interviews because I wanted you to realize what you said back then. And did I kind of play a trick on you about she's been found before? Yes, I did. Okay? And I apologize for that. But I didn't know any other way I could get you to walk through this story. Back on November the 5th, 1981, okay? Unfortunately, I think that it's something you've been hiding all of this time.
Notice how Merle's demeanour has changed. He went from being relaxed and confident throughout the entire interview to being slightly anxious and attentive the more that the detective pushed on a hard subject.
And quite frankly, this is coming back to haunt you.
Be a lie in order to get me there.
Well, you know
I
what?
haven't confessed to
How was
anything.
the case went to cold case, which is us, and it's been put together. And it's coming. It's coming. And
What is coming?
you're fixing to be charged with this.
Charged
Straight
with
up.
what?
The death of Laverne Mackey.
In 1981, there was a statute of limitations in place for second-degree murder, which has already expired, meaning the detectives needed a confession in order to charge him with premeditated first-degree murder. Otherwise, Merle would be free to go home.
There are enough contradictions in your story here. Back then, you told so many different versions of what happened to her. One minute you say that she left and flew up to her brother's. No, she went and she ran off with another man. And then you told them that you went down to Key West and y'all were getting married again. And then there's you going draining her money out of the bank. Yes, you did that. But your whole life has been a con. This is a con. You are the ultimate con man, and you work 3 different women in that church. What we did was chase down everybody because we wanted to go back and prove every single lie that you made.
We've talked to 15, 16, 17 people involved and around Laverne's life. We've gone through everything. Like Randy's telling you, it's for real.
At this point, Merle feels like he's been backed into a corner, so he decides to change strategy.
Now, wait a minute.
Yeah,
Who says she's dead?
we know she is.
How do you know she's dead? How do you determine that Laverne is dead?
I'm trying to get in here and reach this man that's in here. You can say whatever you want, but give that body back to her daughter so that she can flip and bury her. Please. Please.
Tell me what we're at. Where are we at right now?
Merle, I'm
Are you
asking
just waiting for a confession?
I could care less about the confession because I don't need it.
This was a blatant lie by the detective, but it is necessary because it makes Merle feel like he's already been found out, when in fact the only way the detectives can charge Merle with anything is if he has a confession. Merle is still able to walk free.
What do you want?
I want a body.
Tell me
Bottom
what
line,
you
I want to know where she's at.
want. When this story finally gets told, you are going to look like such a flippin' animal, such a flippin' lowlife. Give me the damn body. Because without the body, it looks like a first-degree murder in every way, shape, form, or fashion. It's the absolute truth. And then you have the cover-up to it afterwards. Does it look like a first-degree murder? Absolutely. Will it work out best for you to tell me where that body is? Absolutely it will.
You're walking
I
out
am
here.
not convinced that.
Okay?
You're
I'm
walking
gonna
out
walk
here.
out that front door,
Okay.
free man today.
I,
I can get up and leave at any time. Can I get up right now and leave?
Yeah.
Sure.
Merle is now seconds away from leaving. The detective quickly comes up with his final strategy. He would now try and downplay the entire incident, convincing him that whatever happened was not his fault and it was merely an accident. For Merle, this is a much easier thing to confess to, rather than being seen as a heartless murderer. Although this still wouldn't convict him of first-degree murder, it was now their only option.
I can tell you this, if she injured herself by accident, or if she did something like that, and you've been worried about all of this time, and you've just been afraid, out of fear, to come forward, Merle, can we prove there's a crime? I don't know.
I can only tell you, I can sit here and look at you dead on. I'm reading you. I see that you want to talk and tell us where she is. I know you know. I can tell by looking at you.
Did I tell you I like to go fishing?
Yes, you did.
Okay. I went fishing at English. She fell at the dock, hit her head, fell in the water. I have been back there 100 times, raving about that deal, that I didn't jump in the water and save her. I've been living with this for 32 years. I was scared they'd think that I killed her.
After almost 33 years, Merle Mackey has finally admitted that his wife was indeed dead, and that he was present at the scene. However, the detectives are not fully convinced of this version of the story.
Why didn't you call for help and say, hey, she's in the water?
Her head was bleeding pretty bad. She was not breathing.
The body in the water, especially that one, it doesn't go away. Please.
I put some weight on her to take her body down. When I roped that rope around that woman and watched her sink, it's never gone away. It was an accident.
You telling me the truth right now?
I'm telling you, this is straight business.
Marilyn, you're picking her up.
I just took her
And you're
clothes.
pulling her, and you're taking her up out of the water?
Did you lift her back up onto the dock?
No, because she was, blood was just spurting out. Just spurting out.
At this precise moment, Merle Mackey unknowingly confessed to committing first-degree murder. The word spurting suggests that Evelyn was still bleeding and therefore alive when Merle decided to tie her up and throw her into the water.
I held her with one hand. I took the anchor, I put it on her, I wrapped it around her with the rope, and I turned her loose and shoved her underneath the dock.
Tell us where we can find her so we can give her body back to her kid.
I'll tell you what I'll do.
What will you do?
I will drive to Florida, and I'll go with you to that dock. And I will call you as soon as I get there.
You could go there with us. You could drive in the front seat. And we could go there.
I don't want to do that. I'm done. I'm done. You want to argue? I don't want to argue. I said I will be in Florida, and I will show you the dock. That's it. I'm done.
Although Merle had confessed to killing his wife, the case was out of the detective's jurisdiction, meaning they had no authority or arrest powers. They presented the case to Florida's 8th Judicial Circuit Assistant Attorney Brian Kramer, and a grand jury indicted Merle for first-degree murder. Detectives searched the docks where he claimed to have left Laverne's body, but they concluded there was no way her body was going to be found. They didn't believe that Merle was telling the truth about where he hid the body. Merle pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and was sentenced to 10 years in prison.